So far, we've been working with video, but if we want to work with audio, it's pretty similar. One resource I like to use is the freemusicarchive.org, and it's full of royalty-free music that you can use. And so what I could do is I could listen to songs as I'm going along and say, okay, if I like the sound of one in particular, I can click on the download button and it'll bring me to a new window, right click, save audio as, and I'm going to save it inside my same folder that I was working on. So let's go to ADC, tutorials, Premiere, and I would actually make a separate folder for audio and save it inside here. Save. And then I would come back to Premiere and I can do Control I or Command I and import that audio. And I can do the same thing of creating in and out points if I like. If I double click on it, if I double click on it, I'll see the sound wave up here, but I can also drag and drop it directly onto my timeline. And here, notice it'll go in. And I could do the same thing with Command K to cut it at its last point, or cut it wherever the blue playhead is. Command K cuts it there. Press delete. Press delete. Now, we've got a couple of options that we can do. We've got our default transitions. And so if I right click on the end here, apply default transition, it'll fade out. But say, for example, I want to bring down the whole audio itself, the decibel level of the audio. What I did is I dragged down this here. If I click in between, there's this little bar that's in between it. And you'll notice if I drag it down, it decreases all of the decibels for this track. So when I play it, it's going to get a lot softer, right? Now, say, for example, I wanted to have an instance where part of it dips out right when like this jump happens, like I want it to cut down. What I can do is use the pen tool to draw on this line. And so I can go to the pen tool, and this line, if I click on it, this is going to create little anchor points for me where I then can go back to my arrow tool and drag down this whole moment. And then maybe I come forward a little bit, go back to my pen tool, 1 and 2, and I drag this back up here. So now it'll dip down right at that one point. Maybe it goes even lower and a little bit steeper, just so it sort of cuts out there. So you can also do this with the video as well. And if you don't see this bar down here, go to the timeline display settings and click on show audio keyframes. And I'm going to do this for the show video keyframes next. And I don't think this is usually checked by default. And if I drag this window up a little bit so I can see a little bit more, if I drag the audio or the video layer up as well, I have that same bar here, which is the whole opacity of the video itself. And so if you didn't want to use these default transitions, which also allow you to do a crossfade between videos, I can use my pen tool to have a little bit more control over how these fade in and out. It's up to you, whichever method. They both do pretty much the same thing, but you have a little bit more tangible control. And especially if you had something where like you had a loud piece of audio and you didn't want to bring it up, have it be as present, you could manipulate it